we are going to work with a couple word problems in systems of linear equations, and we're going to solve them by graphing to find out the answers that we need. So let's talk about this first example. It says the kicker of a football team makes a total of 6 extra points and field goals and scores 12 points. Write and solve a system of equations to find the number of extra points and field goals. So we're going to have to figure that out. Now it's telling us that X is extra points and Y is field goals. So I'm going to just label my graph since I know I'm going to graph it anyway. So X is going to talk about the extra points. So that's going to be, you know, after you have a touchdown and you kick that extra point to get that last point after the touchdown. And then the field goals, there's three points for every field goal that you get. So then we have extra points and then we have field goals. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to write a system of linear equations. Now we learned about a system that is 2 or more equations. So we're actually going to write 2 different equations to help solve. So the first equation, we're going to talk about the actual points that were scored. And then we're going to write an equation about the types of points that you can get. And that's going to help us write our 2 equations, okay? So for the first one, the points scored. Okay, so this kicker kicked a total of 6 extra points in field goals, but he scored 12 points. That's the whole part of the scoring. So if he scored 12 points, he had a total of 12 points that he scored. These are going to be in standard form. Now, the 2 different types of points that he can get, or the 2 ways that he scores those points, well, he has the extra point, which is only for 1 extra point after a touchdown, plus he has those field goals that are 3 points for every field goal. And so that's going to tell us, okay, so he kicked a few field goals and maybe some extra points after a touchdown to get a total of those 12 points. So maybe he scored, 12 extra points and no field goals. Or maybe he scored 3 or 4 field goals and no extra points to make that 12 total. We don't know yet, and we will find out. Now it says the types of points. So we have that the different ways to score where he scored 6 extra points and field goals completely. So we have that he scored 6 times basically, okay? And he scored 6 times with the 2 different ways, whether it was an extra point after a touchdown or a field goal. So we have our extra points plus our field goals. Those are the amounts of kicks that he did, which were 6. Okay, so now we're going to graph these 2 problems and we're going to see where they intersect. So I'm going to solve these for slope-intercept form, okay? So go ahead and do that on your own first and then check back to see if you got the right equations, and then we'll graph them together. So go ahead and pause the video, solve these 2 equations in slope-intercept form, and then we will come back and graph them. All right, so when I solved for y, I put in slope-intercept form. I got y equals -1/3 x plus 4 and y equals -x plus 6. So we're going to go ahead and graph both of these guys together and see where they intersect. That's how we find our answer. So this first equation I'm going to do in red. I'm going to kind of write it here so you guys can see. So I'm going to start at my y-intercept, which is 4. I'm going to put my little point there. Okay, and then I'm going to go with my slope of -1/3. So I go down 1 over 3, down 1 over 3, down 1 over 3. Okay, so I have my line that I drew, and it's just going to go all the way over. Okay, now I'm going to do my next graph. I'm going to do it in orange, so you guys can see it's in orange. Okay, so the types of kicks that he did, or the types of points, the ways that he can kick. So we have it starting at 6, and then we have -1x. So that means -1 is our slope. We go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And we do that until we see it intersect something, okay? So what that means, this point right here is our answer. This is going to tell us something really important, okay? So the point is 3, 3, but let's go ahead and interpret that a little bit. 3x and 3y. That's the point we created. Well, x is talking about the extra points. So he scored 3 extra points. So that means there were 3 touchdowns, and he scored an extra point after each one of them. And he scored 3 field goals that are each worth those 3 extra points. So that is how this kicker kicked 3 times, and he scored 12 points for the team. This example is the same scenario as the last one. We have the same situation with a kicker of a football team. However, we have different numbers in terms of points. Okay, so this guy actually scored 12 points, but he made a total of 8 kicks this time. So he kicked 8 times, and he scores 12 points. So we're going to write new equations this time to make sure that we have the right equations. So let's talk about just the points, the way he scored. It's the points scored, right? So our equation is he had a total of 12 points that he scored. Our x is, again, those extra points, and you only get 1 point for every extra point, plus 3 points for every field goal kicked, okay? Now we're going to talk about how the points that he got by kicking. So how many times did he kick? Okay. Well, it says he made a total of 8 extra points and field goals together, which means he kicked 8 times and it went in to the field goal. So we have our extra point and our field goal. Those kicks, whatever number it was, equaled 8. So now let's go ahead and label our graph and start graphing. First off, the graph is going to be labeled the same way. We have our extra points for our x-axis. Okay, so extra points, and then we have field goals over on the y. So I want you guys to go ahead and graph these 2 equations, so put them into slope-intercept form if that is easier. Graph them, and then find the point where they cross. When we come back, we're going to interpret what that means. You cannot just write your answer, you got to label it and connect your answer to this kicker of a football team. Try to do this on your own first, then come back and check your answer with me. So these are what the graph should look like on your end. All I did was I got my y's by themselves put in slope-intercept form. You can also graph using your intercepts, finding the x and y intercept. I found that the point that the 2 lines crossed, our answer, our solution for the system, which is 6, 2. 6 is talking about x, 2 is talking about y. So now I'm going to explain how to interpret. So 6 is talking about the x-axis. So 6 means this kicker made 6 extra points, and the 2 is talking about the y. Well, that's the field goals, so then he also made 2 field goals. So what this means is he kicked a total of 8 times, because 2 plus 6 is 8. Well, that's what we had already known. He kicked 8 times. Then extra points are only 1 point, so 6 times 1 is 1. And for 2 field goals, well, each field goal is 3 points, so 2 times 3 is 6. 6 points from extra points and then 6 points from field goals equals that 12 points that he scored. So it all comes together and makes sense in the end.